Star Wars has some of the best space battles. There's something hectic about them. This combination of World War II dogfights and street racing scratches an itch that I didn't know I had. And perhaps no game series has captured that feeling of shooting down the Death Star trench more than Factor 5's Rogue Squadron games. Inspired by that one mission in Shadows of the Empire and the slew of X-Wing novels from the old EU, Rogue Squadron 3D and its sequels were incredible Star Wars titles. They followed Luke, Wedge, and all the rest through their adventures blowing up Death Stars and kicking over AT-ATs. They were technical marvels for the time, and by that I mean they hold up in some places and less so in others. Draw distance fog, life systems, and a big case of where do I go syndrome lead to more than a few headaches for an unrefined gamer like myself. But they were tons of fun, capturing that hectic feeling we love with space battles with an arcadey attitude. And besides some possibly wonky rights issues, I don't see any reason why this series can't still exist, because we definitely need more Rogue Squadron games. And since we probably won't get one, I'm gonna tell you what I would do with the fourth one if given the chance. Right off the bat, I know about Rogue Leaders, or Rogue Squadron X-Wing vs TIE Fighter, Factor 5's finished but unreleased Final Symphony. I would definitely prefer for Factor 5's Rogue Squadron to be the Rogue Squadron 4 we get. But considering they have a case of being mostly out of business, and similarly Star Wars has a case of EA, it's unlikely that we'll get a release that isn't someone dumping a ROM on some back alley site. So here's the next best thing. Yeah, that's right, nobody, and I mean nobody except maybe id, has made me feel so skilled while moving so fast than Criterion motherfucking Games. Controversies aside, what they've done with the space battles in Battlefront 2 is really impressive, and I'd love to see what they could do if they were given a full title. It feels just fast enough in its current form that it's easy to pick up, but it's damn near impossible to pull off technical maneuvers with some serious spectacle like we've seen in previous titles. In a new game, having a handbrake and accelerator to mimic that feeling of being in a fast car spread out into 3 dimensions captures that drifty feeling that Poe in particular seems to be doing a lot of. And speaking of Poe, I'm incredibly interested in growing the era before The Force Awakens. I know that some of that has been covered in the Poe Dameron comic and Resistance, and some of what I would do would conflict with some of that. But I love to follow a young Poe, recently out of the Academy, realizing how little the Republic plans to do with the growing threat of the First Order and being taken under the wing of General Organa, while growing her resistance and forming Black Squadron. Not only would it help clarify some of the confusion around the political structure during The Force Awakens, but it would show just how diverse the Resistance was. Like the Rebellion before it, resources were limited, and people from all walks of life joined up to help fight the First Order before they gained supremacy. This parallels Rogue Squadron 3D's choice to take place within the original trilogy at a time when the Rebellion was rapidly growing influence. A lot of those missions involved recruiting defecting generals and protecting people who are realizing just how dangerous the Empire has become. As a result, I prefer to have a compelling single-player game first. Battlefront 2 can and should remain the Star Wars multiplayer powerhouse it has become, and having this instead focus on Poe's story specifically would allow for things like a bullet time-esque mechanic and other form of time dilation to allow the ship-to-ship combat to feel as kinetic as possible. Also, it's just incredibly lame for me to have to pick my ship from a menu at the start of every round of Battlefront. I miss being able to move around the hangar a bit. Where's the narrator telling me which ships can and cannot fly circles around a Y-wing? Dakar is one of my favorite planets in the new films, and having a full 3D hangar would really help with immersion. We don't seem to talk about LEGO Force Awakens for some reason, but their version of the Resistance base is way better than it had to be. On a similar side of things, I would like to see as little of the films recreated in these games as possible. It's nice in the original Rogue Squadron games, but I'd prefer if it stayed in some form of legacy mode where classic battles from all eras are represented, even the prequels. For being on the older side of things, the Factor 5 Rogue Squadron games were jammed packed with hidden secrets, legacy content, and like flying cars that hours of fun could be had, and I want to maintain that without sacrificing a good, impressive single-player experience. From a gameplay perspective though, the biggest thing I'd like to see is semi-open worlds. Think a whole bunch of smaller, Burnout Paradise-like maps, where smaller missions can be done to help grow the resistance or improve your ship. Not only is it a more economic use of space to have these shorter missions peppered across a larger map, but I don't want to break immersion. With their Battlefront 3, Free Radical was planning on having their combat from space to ground be continuous. More recently and less Star Wars-y is what No Man's Sky is doing. Now I know I've trash-talked that game in the past, probably more than it deserves, but jumping to hyperspace and moving between planets is pretty damn cool, and if done in a way that feels more deliberate and less, empty, would really make this game extra immersive. Imagine running through Baker's Canyon back home only to slam your X-foils closed, shoot up out of the atmosphere, and meet Star Destroyers that have dropped in from hyperspace, or being able to deliver supplies to another system, or escorting a transport from one planet to the next. There's an opportunity here to really make it feel like you live in your X-Wing, like you're fighting in a conflict that's about to become an all-out war. This, coupled with the less-than-legal smuggling runs Poe has done in the past,
We were a space runner?
You were a stormtrooper?
Were you a spice runner?
Were you a scavenger? We could do this all night.
would make for prime opportunities to show just how far the Resistance was willing to go to prevent another all-out galactic civil war. It would also help you feel at odds with the greater resources the rapidly demilitarizing Republic has. Creating something that represents a more space sim version of the Star Wars universe isn't something we've had in quite some time. And while the X-Wing games still exist, towing that line between that and a really simple LEGO Star Wars level is the goal here. I love the X-Wing novels and what I've read of Alphabet Squadron so far, and getting the vibe of being this hotshot pilot who hasn't seen a fresher in a couple weeks really hits more womp rats on the head for me. Say what you will about the Disney era, but between Rogue One, Hera and Rebels, and Poe, there have been some absolutely killer pilots in space battles, and I'd love to have more. A love letter to the new ones and the ones that came before. I know that with the current state of Star Wars games, it's absolutely unlikely for this to get the ball rolling, even if quite a few of the pieces are still there. But with the success of Jedi Fallen Order, it would be wonderful for EA to let another studio craft another single-player experience that lets them create something unique while still being a tribute to the years of Star Wars games we love. Hey, thank you so much for watching. If you like videos with the word Rogue in the title, here's one about 007 Rogue Agent, and another one where we make pod racing work in the new era.